Hey guys, I'm Raymond. You're watching RPAD TV 3000. We have a great episode for you today. It's going to be all about the first two episodes of Ahsoka on Disney Plus. Joining me today is my excellent friend and big time Star Wars nerd, Paul Semel. What's up, Paul?
Hello. I will try my best to smile more naturally than Ron DeSantis.
I totally missed the debates. Were they entertaining?
I didn't watch them, but there's a meme going around of him where he answers a question and then he remembers that he's supposed to try and smile more, and it's kind of like it's just like, oh wow, that's awkward.
I mean, I don't like the guy, but I can empathize. I have a natural resting bitch face, so
Right.
it's scowling comes easy.
Yeah. Well, that was always the thing with this not Sporty Spice. Who's the one who married the football player?
Posh.
Posh, yeah. Like people were always like, "Why don't you smile more?" And she's like, "I have a terrible smile." And then someone dug up a photo of her smiling, and they were like, "Oh,
yeah,
that's bad. That's real bad." Yeah. So,
for those of you not familiar with Paul's work, he is a longtime video game journalist, and he has an excellent site, paulsemel.com. Can you tell the people out there some of your latest reviews, previews, features? What's going on?
So the big thing this week was I did a review of the new video game, Immortals of Avium.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, okay. Which, for people who don't know what it is, it's basically a first-person shooter but with magic.
Yeah.
So you're not using guns, you're shooting magic out of your hands. Kind of like that game Ghostwire Tokyo that came out like last year, I think. It was really cool.
For a second, I thought you were going to say you shoot magic out of your ass.
No. I mean, you don't do like finger guns. There's none of that. But it's like
magic.
You're kind of doing like trying to get this in here, like and
right.
But you also, unlike magic in a lot of games, you're not like limited. Like you don't have to sit there and drink potions every 5 seconds.
Right.
Like,
you're not recharging your mana.
Yeah, you do for like your special attacks and things like that, but for your normal kind of things. So there's a review of that, and then the usual, a lot of book stories. I interviewed Troy Denning about the new Halo novel, Outcasts. There's also a couple of new cool science fiction novels that I interviewed the authors of, including Temi O and Honey Watson, and then got a ton of stuff coming up. More of the same, some jazz reviews and some booker stuff. And
Carlos has a question for you. He asks, it's not like the South Park RPGs.
No, not at all. Not at all.
I consulted on those.
It's definitely more like if you can imagine Call of Duty, if like you were shooting it's like almost like Call of Duty kind of in the way that combat works, because like when you first get your magic, like one of them is very much like an assault rifle kind of thing, and then another one is like a shotgun and how it works and thing.
Now that you mentioned it, that it's not a magic game where you do finger guns. I want to play that game and you have to make the sounds too and be like pew.
That should be a game. Yeah, I think somebody did make a game like that where you used finger guns and you would like do stuff.
Was it a Connect game? It's like
probably. There was actually a story this week that they're finally stopping.
Yes, I saw that. Connect. Yeah,
which I was like, wait, they were still doing that?
Somebody loved it.
Yeah,
but check out those reviews. Paul does some great interviews too. Go to paulsemel.com as you see below the screen. Now let's jump into Ahsoka there. In a few minutes, tell me what you thought of the first two episodes of Ahsoka.
I was very, very impressed, especially about the beginning of that first episode. The sort of the whole like sort of Tomb Raider-ish Indiana Jones thing where she goes the temple of the ladies of Dathomir, and she's got to figure out the whole thing, and then she gets out and there's all those like droids that are like, hey, like, give us the map, and she's like, nah, I don't think so, and then proceeds to kick their butts. It was, we haven't seen her really fighting since live action, And so it was really cool to see that play, how that was going to be with, because we didn't know whether she's still, when we last saw her fighting, I guess it was in Rebels, but
Well, she fought in The Mandalorian. She
did
fought.
she?
Yeah, she was killing those randos in the forest that were
Oh,
trying to hunt her
right.
down.
But that was more like she was sneaking around, kind of like this was like full
Right.
on, like,
They showed her a little bit when she was fighting Morgan Elsbeth at the end there. I mean, it wasn't as up close and personal like these fights that you're talking about, but
right.
I get what you mean. I get what you mean.
Yeah.
We haven't seen her go like full on
Yeah.
since Rebels, so
Yeah.
I
But
got you there.
there was a lot about that. And I also really liked, again, it was at the beginning, the scene where like they're transporting that woman and they're like, oh, there's like a ship that showed up and they say they're Jedi, and the guy and like it was funny because like I was like, are they gonna buy this? And then I love that the captain was like, yeah, I'm not buying any of this. Like, you're like a bunch of like jerks, and like you thought you were gonna get away with this, and you're not going to. And they were like, huh.
Right.
Okay.
Now that scene had a lot of callbacks to it. Some people, said it paralleled when Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon first went into a ship in episode 1.
Right.
I forget, I think it was Jedi when they were using like old codes for the shuttle to get access to the Death Star.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, they're using the old Jedi codes there. So it seemed like those were cool callbacks if you're a fan, but you didn't need to know that stuff.
No.
So, speaking of Rebels, you brought that up. Give the people out there a background of, how much of a fan you are of Ahsoka, the Rebels characters, because that plays a huge part in this series.
Well, okay. So for people who don't know, Ahsoka originally turned up they call it a movie, but it was really just the first 3 episodes of the Clone Wars cartoon,
which were not good.
I like the Clone Wars cartoon.
No, the first 3.
Oh, the first 3 episodes. No, they were still trying to figure out their where they were going with it. But basically the idea was the Clone Wars cartoon was going to fill in the time between the end of Attack of the Clones and the beginning of Revenge of the Sith.
Right.
And it's not connected to the other Clone Wars cartoon that Genndy Tartakovsky did.
Right.
Which also did the same thing and introduced characters like Asajj Ventress. But whatever. So Ahsoka was basically she shows up and she's supposed to be Anakin's Padawan. And he at first is just like, I don't want this like teenager following me around. Like, what is this? But over the course of the show, as they developed their relationship and her character more, she became very much a fan favorite of people. Because she was she was, especially in the beginning, she was very headstrong and she was not kind of deferential to Anakin.
She was snippy.
Yeah.
So
hence her nickname that he had for her Snips. But like she would like give him grief about stuff and which was funny because it was kind of the way that Anakin had behaved with Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
When he was a Padawan in Attack of the Clones to a certain extent. So then at the end of the Clone Wars cartoon, though, I don't want to spoil anything, but suffice it to say that Ahsoka leaves the Jedi Order.
Right.
And then that show ended.
Right.
And then the same people who did that show did a cartoon called Star Wars Rebels. And the idea of Rebels was, here is how a group of people end up forming a rebellion cell.
Mm-hmm.
And then how all the rebellion cells kind of come together. And it leads right up to and overlaps with Rogue One. Right. And overlaps chronologically with Andor, although it doesn't like interact with any of Andor's off to, doing its own sort of thing.
On several levels, that is true.
Yeah.
Andor it is the most Star Wars thing out there.
Right. but it happens at the same time as the end of Rebels. But then in the middle of Rebels, you find out that there's this secret person who they're dealing with in the rebellion, and it, spoiler alert, sorry, turns out to be Ahsoka. And
Spoilers
Ahsoka
are fine.
turns up right, and so that's when Ahsoka ended up being in, I don't know how many episodes of Rebels, but a bunch.
Yeah, she's in a few in seasons 2 and 3, and then pops up at the very end of season 4.
Right. And then actually they went back and did another season of Clone Wars.
Yeah.
A lot of which was about Ahsoka.
Yeah.
And what she did after she left the Jedi Order and left Anakin and all this stuff. Yeah. So and to give you an idea of how much I like Ahsoka.
Uh-oh. He's pulling out the props. Should we be scared?
Yes.
You better still have clothes on. Okay.
Yeah. I have many Star Wars action figures, as you can imagine, including. See if I can get her.
Is that from the Disney game?
Yeah, that's from. In fact, I normally have her, Rey,
Nice,
and Princess Leia, and I always have them posed on the shelf so they kind of mirror the Charlie's Angels like look. So.
Yeah. I hope it's better than his hanging indie.
Yeah. So
that sounds naughty.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the stuff we liked in the first 2 episodes of Ahsoka. Right. Now, I mean, the intro sequence was very cool. I liked a lot of the parallels. That Balin skull and the kill box thing. A lot of stuff there that was going on. It was a lot like the Vader scene in Rogue One, which is all kinds of cool. But the music, very different. Kevin Kiner was the composer.
Right.
He did a lot of the music he did the music for Clone Wars, for Rebels. He's done a bunch of stuff. I found out that the first thing he did was actually Leprechaun. So he has come a long way.
Leprechaun is in the horror movie?
Yeah, as in Jennifer Aniston. Yeah. So that was the first movie he did. I'm not sure what the first TV score he did was, but
that's
fun. Leprechaun.
Hey, you gotta start somewhere.
So maybe Warwick Davis hooked him up with a job.
I don't know.
But he has this track when Balin Skull is doing the kill box thing where it's mostly just piano, which is very unusual for Star Wars, but it was very cool and powerful. It made that scene really stand out. What did you like about that intro? You said
I mean, like I said, I liked the opening of the first episode. I liked a lot of things. I really liked the show in general. I like how it's setting up a lot of interesting things that I didn't expect. I mean, I didn't expect, the Witch of Dathomir to turn up, and I also don't really understand a lot that's going on. Like, I'm like, wait a minute. So Thrawn was on a ship that flew off into space with Ezra.
Right.
Now there's an ancient map that's going to tell, like, how does that all work? But like that, what I like about it is that they're setting up a lot of interesting things in those first couple episodes. Like, it was one of those things where I was like, I got to the end of the second episode. I'm like, damn it.
Yeah. Same here.
Although at the same time I was like, okay, it's 2 a.m. Like I can't pull an all-nighter here. I also liked that it had the same general vibe as The Mandalorian and the Boba Fett show, and to a lesser extent the Obi-Wan show. I like that vibe of that they, the sort of how quick it moves and the way it sort of play. There's a lightness there, but it's not like goofy. Like, it's not like Robot Chicken Star Wars or anything.
Yeah.
But I like that. I am sort of curious if like Mando will sort of turn up at some point, and
I'm hoping so. I mean, there's so many characters that they have to draw from.
Yeah.
I mean, Filoni is saying, he said that a lot of this is like Rebels season 5.
Right.
Even though the show is called Ahsoka, and so far in the first 2 episodes, the Rebels, or at least 3 of them, played a big part of what was going on.
I I would say I don't necessarily agree that it's Rebels season 5. It seems to me like a spin-off of Rebels, as opposed to just its own thing, because you have those characters,
Right.
you know. Like I'm trying to think of I was trying to think of a good example of a show that was like a kind of like a Frasier Cheers kind of thing.
Okay.
You
That's
know, where you have that, there's sort of the overlap, or, you know,
yeah.
kind of, you know.
I mean, Kathleen Kennedy said that you don't need to have watched Rebels to enjoy this. I mean, obviously we have no way of knowing that for sure. But if you did watch Ahsoka and did not watch Rebels, please let me know what you thought about it.
Yeah,
Our
I'm
social
curious.
medias are all up there. Leave a comment. Yeah, I'm really curious too.
I don't know. Because there's things where they talk about stuff where you're like, wait a minute, who is Thrawn?
Yeah.
Who is Ezra?
Yeah.
They don't like explain any of that.
Let's talk more about that later. I do want to focus on that point. But for stuff that I liked, I mean, as a big Rebels fan, seeing Lothal in live action was really cool. Seeing the city, seeing those highways and the tower where Ezra spent so much time. Just seeing that world that I spent 4 seasons watching an animated version of, seeing that planet in real life was just awesome for me.
Yeah.
And seeing these characters like Rebels outside of the original trilogy, Rebels is my favorite Star Wars thing. So seeing a lot of these characters, these locations in a live action show, it's totally went fanboy on it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that people are flipping out over the Loth cats.
Loth cats are cool. I did not know that they had like duck feet from the animation. I'm like, whoa, that's weird.
Yeah.
So the Loth cat is interesting because they used a practical model. It was a mix of a practical model and CG. So yeah, I thought it looked great.
Yeah.
Carlos said a point. I'm trying to get used to the voices not matching what I'm used to. Yeah.
I was saving that for when we get to the things we didn't like part.
Okay. I will pull that up again. But yeah. that is a good point. And seeing Sabine, who is just one of my favorite, both Sabine and Ahsoka are 2 of my favorite characters outside the OT. So seeing them, seeing more of Ahsoka and seeing Sabine for the first time. I love that actress too. I watched her in Guns Akimbo, which is that movie starring Harry Potter, where he is in a reality show where he has guns like stapled to his hands for some reason.
Yeah. Okay.
So she is the lead actress in that, and she also has multicolored hair. I'm like, well, you guys didn't try very hard, did you? It's like just find some ethnic girl with different color hair.
Yeah.
But no, she looks the part, and she's great.
Yeah. I also really like the main bad guy's Padawan.
Yeah. I want to talk more about them and things that surprised me, but yeah, I liked both Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati, or as I call them, Fat Punisher and Fake Scarlett Johansson. So,
to me, she reminded me of Wednesday's roommate on Wednesday.
That's true, but older, right?
Yeah, she's sort of like, and now I want like, and it's funny because I put this thing up on Twitter a few months ago where I noticed that the woman who plays Nurse Chapel on Star Trek Strange New Worlds looks like an older version of the girl who plays Wednesday's roommate. And now I want the woman who plays Shin to, like, now the 3 of them have to be in like a movie together where like
do the Spider-Man thing.
Yeah. They have to all have, because they all have very similar haircut. They have very, very similar facial structures. Although the woman who plays Shin also sort of looks like a lost Olsen sister.
I can see that, yeah, for sure. Yeah. So yeah, I liked the characters that we know and loved, and I liked the new characters. They were good and more than I thought they would be. So now let us get into the things that we did not like so much, which for me it's not a whole lot.
No.
Carlos did bring up that point of matching the voices in the live action compared to the voices in our head.
Right.
Not the ones that, were crazy, but the ones that we heard in 4 seasons of Rebels. For me, I mean,
the one in my head doesn't like Star Wars at all, which is weird. But
for Hera, though, that was the biggest one for me because she has such a powerful, strong voice.
Yeah.
And Mary Elizabeth Winstead has a very distinct voice. So I keep thinking it's Ramona Flowers from Scott Pilgrim. I'm like, why is she like doing Hera Syndulla cosplay? I don't understand.
Well, the thing that also threw me about Hera was very much the mom.
Yeah.
Of the crew. And Winstead looks younger than Hera did at the end of Rebels, even though it's 10 years later. So that threw me a little bit. But like, I get what Carlos. I kind of agree with Carlos, but I feel like by the end of the series, I'll be over that sort of. I wouldn't say that's a negative. It's just like, oh, okay, now we're seeing this character in live action. Now I have to kind of get used to it. Like,
right.
Right.
What else did you dislike? I mean, for me, it's not a whole lot.
Honestly, nothing really. I mean, like I said, I don't really know why they had to like find an ancient map.
You need your MacGuffins.
Yeah, hidden in and why it was hidden in coffee grounds, but
explosive coffee grounds.
Yeah, that threw me when those robots were like, "We're gonna blow up," and she starts running, and I'm like, "Why is she running away so far?" And all of a sudden, like literally the entire planet blows up, and I'm like, "Oh God!"
Yeah,
like they went full Predator with these guys.
Yeah.
No, I don't think there wasn't anything that really struck me as being bad or uninteresting, and
there are some fans that complained that this version of Ahsoka is too angsty, or she's not the bright, positive character that they knew in Clone Wars, and even to an extent Rebels. But I didn't see that.
I don't entirely agree with that, because that was only when she was with Sabine. When she was with Sabine, she very much put like her walls up.
Yeah.
If you see, that was again, this goes back to that opening scene of her where she throws the lightsabers down, they spin around her, and then she goes down. There was a little grin on Rosario Dawson's face when that whole scene was going on, where like you could tell she was having that, both she and the character were having fun in that moment. And I felt that there was that older but still having a good time snips there.
Okay.
But
yeah,
something clearly happened between her and Sabine.
Right.
I don't know what. They haven't told us yet. But and I think we'll find out. But like, the minute that happened, like you saw her demeanor kind of change. Like,
I do think she's not the same, of course, because you get older, you have different experiences, you see the world differently.
Right.
And the big thing with Ahsoka is that since Rebels, she has this guilt for Anakin becoming Vader pretty much right after she left the Jedi Order. Right. So that guilt has only been growing, and she hasn't let that go. So I kind of hope this gets resolved for her. Maybe Luke will pop up and they'll talk about his dad. I mean, I don't know how she gets over it.
I don't know how you resolve that. I mean, especially because she can't confront him. He's dead.
Well, there's always the Force ghost thing. I don't know if they'll play that out.
That's a good point. I mean, they did say that Hayden Christensen is going to be in the show, but they didn't say how. So yeah, I don't know.
So Carlos says, my thing is, we know that Sabine could wield the lightsaber because she's the Darksaber, but when did she become Force sensitive? Yeah, that is retconned a bit. I mean, they do say she's Force sensitive, but not very much. As Huyang said, that she is, like, in terms of the Force, she is the least talented Padawan that he's ever encountered. Just in terms of the Force, not in terms of skill.
Right.
I kind of like that, because I don't want Sabine to be a Jedi. I like her as this kick-ass Mandalorian girl that, in addition to the harsh Mandalorian style of fighting, she also is really good at blowing things up and then making paintings about it after. So that is what I want from Sabine. I don't want her to become a traditional Jedi. And it doesn't seem like that's going to happen.
No, I don't get that sense either.
So in terms of her being force sensitive, yeah, I mean, people have said everyone has a degree of force sensitivity. Some people more than others, of course, Jedi the most. So she has something, but it's not particularly good or powerful. And I'm fine with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I feel like that's something that's going to get explained.
Yeah.
Like there may even be a confrontation between her and Ahsoka where she's like, look, I'm not as adept, as powerful with the force as you thought I was.
Yeah. Let's get into that aspect, because I want to talk about things that surprised us in the first 2 episodes, and their relationship surprised me. I was not, I thought they would be all chummy and be like, hey, let's go find Ezra and defeat bad guys. But there was a lot of antagonism there, and I was not expecting that at all. How about you?
No, I didn't know what their relationship was going to be like. I mean, because, you got to remember the last time they were together was 10 years ago. From what we've seen on screen,
right?
10 years in the chronology. We don't know what happened between the two of them during the time of the original trilogy. We don't know what happened between them in the 5 years between the end of Return of the Jedi and the beginning of The Mandalorian. And when we see Ahsoka in The Mandalorian, she makes no mention of the Rebels crew whatsoever. But then again, there wasn't really a moment where she would have mentioned them. Like, it's not like it's not like suddenly she was going to go, okay, I got to go and meet my friend Sabine.
Yeah. There was no context for it, so it didn't make sense to bring it up.
So obviously, like I said, something did happen. And I feel that we will find out what, and I feel like they will hopefully work it out to a certain extent. I mean, and obviously Hera is still friends with both of them and wants them to work it out. I also like that they showed Sabine being kind of down on her luck a little bit and like needing something in her life.
Right. Like, I mean, her Mandalorian armor is stashed, so it looks like she's given up on that aspect of her life.
Right. Well, and as somebody pointed out, like her nails weren't done and her hair was all crazy. And then like at the end of that second episode, she does the whole.
Right. She does the Mulan.
Yeah.
she cuts it off.
Yeah.
So yeah, she always kept her hair short in the Rebels series because it gets hot wearing that helmet most of the time.
You would think. I don't think they're air conditioned.
Well, that would be cool. And I think it works with these characters because in Rebels, Ahsoka spent most of her time with Hera and Kanan and Ezra. She didn't really spend time with Zeb or Sabine. So them having a broken relationship, they have the freedom to go in that direction and tell a different story there. So yeah, that totally works for me. Another surprise, I mentioned Baylan and Shin.
Yeah.
Played by the late Ray Stevenson, who you might know from The Punisher. So I was expecting these...
The Punisher movie.
Yeah.
Punisher TV show.
Yeah.
Let's be clear about that.
So I mean, even though they have orange lightsabers, I thought these would just be straight up bad guys, but they're not. We're going to get into a little bit of spoiler territory here, but they seem more nuanced. There was a moment where at the end of episode 2 where Baylan expressed regret of being told to, take down Ahsoka, and he didn't want to kill a Jedi because there are so few of them left.
Right.
With Shin, when she confronts Sabine, did you notice that, she just said she wanted the map, but she did not start the fight? It was Sabine who ignited her lightsaber first and attacked first. And throughout the episode, Shin also showed some doubt about their plans. She was very wary of Morgan Elsbeth. So they weren't straight up bad guys. They were doing bad things, but they weren't like evil.
Well, yeah. I mean, if Shin wanted to, she could have killed Sabine.
Yes.
I mean, she speared her in kind of the gut, like off to the side, as
Right.
opposed to somewhere else. But more to the point, she didn't then, while Sabine was lying on the ground, she didn't kind of sit there and walk her head off.
Chop her head off, like do a Highlander. There can be
Yeah.
only one.
And she
Yeah.
could have very easily done that. That would have taken all of 2 seconds to do, before anybody showed up. It wasn't like she was rushed. It's not like Sabine fell off a ledge and like she would have had to jump, you know what I mean, or whatever. Like it would have taken her another 5 minutes to do it. Like she just was like out of there. I don't know. That's an interesting point. I'm curious again to see where their allegiances lie and what, I mean, I don't imagine they're in it to try and find Ezra, but at the same time,
right.
I don't know.
Let me ask you this. Have you ever thrown a hooker off of a train? No, it's an old Norm Macdonald joke. So the stab wound that you mentioned, some people are speculating that the location was very intentional and that she didn't want to hit any vital organs and kill her. Did you get that, or is it just dumb luck? Or
I could see it going either way.
Right.
I mean, the implication is that she's human, such that humans are in Star Wars, which
yes.
And if that's the case, then hitting her in, right here where the heart is would have been a killing blow, or like, here in the head would have been a killing blow. So maybe not. I don't know. I think that will become clearer, like when we find out more what their real motivations are.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, something just dawned on me. Maybe their motivations is to bring Thrawn back so they can kill him, because they realize that think about it. If he's the one they think that everybody thinks can bring back the Empire,
then let's off him. But I mean, they are working as mercenaries, so they are in it for the money. But while they're doing bad things, it seems like Baylan still has a lot of respect for Jedi. Shin is wearing traditional Jedi colors. She has the Padawan braid even. So it's not like they're Sith. So I kind of like that, because Ahsoka is not a Jedi, as she famously said in Rebels.
Right.
And these guys are not Jedi either, but they're not Sith. So I like that there are shades of gray. They're not, just evil, good,
Well, there was something in like the comics and the books that were written before Disney took over and were then kind of like removed from canon. There was something about dark Jedi.
Right.
And they were, if I remember it correctly, they were like Jedi who basically didn't follow some of the rules of the Jedi. Like they would kill and they would like form attachments and and things, and they would use some of the things that like the Sith would use, but they never gave into the dark. They weren't doing it for bad reasons. Like, for example, like they would use like Force lightning, but not as like
it's a torture method.
Right. They would use it to like do other, to take out a bad guy or something. So maybe that's where they're going with it.
And cook some s'mores,
Yeah.
Would that work?
Yeah,
maybe. I mean,
recharge a battery. And
I don't know if this analogy makes any sense, but in my head, it kind of, I was thinking Baylan's view of the universe at that time. It's kind of like my view on American politics at this time. I'm like, both sides suck. So maybe he's like, Empire sucked, New Republic's not really, it's no picnic either. I'm going to do my own thing. So
I don't know.
We'll see. So I like that they're nuanced and interesting. I was not expecting that from them. So cool there. Now let us take a promo break. I just want to make note, turn off this banner here. Guys, if you like my content, please subscribe, like this video. All my social media stuff is down there. If you really, really like the content, please consider picking up some RPAD TV merch available on Amazon stores around the world. If you want direct links and more info on the merch, go to rpad.tv/merch and maybe pick something up for you, pick something up as a gift. These make great stocking stuffers and holiday presents. Yeah, possibilities are endless. Now, back to our show. Paul, we are both big Rebels marks. As a
Yep.
Rebels fan, what did you like most about this show? I mentioned seeing Lothal and some of those characters already.
Yeah, that was a big thing. Chopper.
So, oh my God, yes.
The interchange between Hera and Chopper when she was like, find the tracking device, and he's like, I mean, obviously he didn't say it, but he basically was like, have you been going through my stuff again?
He did say it. He's Filoni who does the voice,
right?
For Chopper.
But I mean, you can't understand him. Like, he's not like speaking English. But yeah,
he is though. Like, I think he's speaking slower, or my brain is so messed up that I'm starting to understand Chopper now.
There are times when he says things and it's like the way his voice moves is the way to say it. I think that's what it is. Like,
yeah, the intonation is mimics the actual.
Right. You know, it's kind of like whenever you hear somebody in like Star Wars or Star Trek or whatever, and they're not speaking English, but like you kind of know what they're saying because they're like Bahua Bahua, and you're like, oh, okay, I get it, yeah, you know.
Carlos says he is speaking English and it's distorted.
Yeah,
like he did say, did you look through my stuff? He's like, no, I did not look through your stuff. Yes, you did.
Yeah, yeah.
But I liked that when Chopper was, as they were chasing the ship, Chopper's like, why don't you just shoot it down? She's like, I can't shoot it down over the port.
Right.
He's like, why? That's bad.
Yeah. What's funny is there used to be, I don't know if they do it anymore, but there used to be this thing called the Star Wars show. And if you bought Rebels on Blu-ray, they would basically also include all the episodes of the Star Wars show. And one of the features of the Star Wars show is they would do these funny, like weird little bits with a live action Chopper that they had around the office. And it would be like Chopper, like, you know, getting into trouble like in the Lucasfilm offices with people. So it reminded me of that. And I do like that somebody said, I'm glad they kept Chopper as like the droid jerk. Yes.
No, I love Chopper. I mean, people that just met Chopper in the Ahsoka series, I think he did he have a brief appearance in Rogue One or he just like scooted by? I think so.
Yeah, in Rogue One, he scoots by. There's an announcement over the PA about General Syndulla.
Right.
And then at one point when their ship takes off, you can see the ghost sort of sitting there.
So the thing that people that are just getting to know Chopper is that he has one of the highest body counts among the Rebel Alliance. Like some Star Wars nerds, I love that they fight about this, that they're so passionate about this, but some people have estimated that Chopper has killed more than 50,000 people fighting the Empire.
Really?
Yeah, there's this one episode in Rebels called Stealth Strike where they have that gravity well that can pull people out of hyperspace.
Right.
So Chopper rigs it so that the interdictor, that's the big ship, the gravity well pulls the Imperial ships towards it. So he ends up, because Chopper did this, 2 Imperial light shuttles get pulled into the interdictor and all 3 blow up. So that's they're saying that's on just that one move is 37,000 people on its own.
Would that be more than well, okay, yeah. I wonder how many people were on the Death Star.
But that was a team effort.
True. Yeah.
There's a lot. This is all Chopper here.
Right.
They call Chopper. They always describe him as like a war criminal. Like, and these are the people that love him. And he is a little psycho. There was a moment where they had another droid helping them, and they were joking like, "Hey, should we keep him? He'd be a big help." And then Chopper just pushes him out of the Phantom.
Oh yeah.
That was great. Or were they on the Ghost? I don't remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, Chopper's like, "Fuck this."
Yeah.
It's like I'm staying.
I also like that they brought back the Doctor Who guy to do the
David Tennant as Fu Yang. So for people that are just meeting Huyang, he is the robot at the Jedi Temple that taught Padawans or younglings how to construct their first lightsaber. So he has a database of every lightsaber ever officially created at the Jedi Temple, which is how he was able to identify Baylan Skoll. And of course, David Tennant is just ridiculously awesome.
Yeah.
So that was very cool. I did want to give a shout out to Clancy Brown.
Oh, yeah.
Who was a nerd god. So going from left to right, he is in Highlander as the Kurgan. He also voiced Lex Luthor in Superman, the animated series. And in Rebels, he played Ryder Azadi, who becomes the governor of the Rebel cell on Lothal, and eventually the official governor of Lothal, as he was shown in Ahsoka.
Yeah.
So he voiced that character. The character's appearance was based on him. So it was cool to see him get to play a character based on him in live action. That was pretty sweet.
Did I ever tell you the story about when I sort of met him at a Rebels screening?
No.
Okay.
Please tell.
So this is probably about 2 weeks before Rebels first aired. They had like an event. I don't know why you weren't there with me, but maybe you weren't around. But there was an event and they had it on the Disney lot, and it was like there was like a little party and a bunch of people hanging out and whatever, including Ashley Eckstein, who does the voice of Ahsoka, which had me wondering, like, why is she here?
Huh.
But then they said, like, okay, now we're going to show you the first 2 episodes. So we go in this screening room, and I sit down, and then this kid sits next to me, and then the kid's dad sits next to him, and I look over, and it's Clancy Brown. And I don't remember why, but I wound up having this conversation with the kid about Star Wars. But it was one of those things, like, I don't know if you ever had a conversation with a kid where you keep making eye contact with the dad, and like the dad has like a big grin on his face because he thinks it's funny that he's like happy that the kid is talking to someone about Star Wars and it's not him. And the weird thing is, I don't remember why it came up, but like the kid, I asked the kid about Star Trek, and the kid just went off on how much he hated Star Trek, just like deep into it. And I look at him and I go, yeah, but what are you going to do if your dad gets offered a role in the Star Trek show? And I look up at his dad and he's like, yeah, I'm curious about this too. And the kid was like, my dad and I would have a long conversation about that. I'm like, oh God.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
What's he like in real life? He's pretty tall, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, we were sitting down. I didn't actually talk to him too much, like much more than like kind of, offhand remarks and stuff. He seemed very nice. He just had like this very sort of proud papa / grin on his face about like how happy his kid. Like I think he was really, really happy that he was bringing his kid to this, and like, that.
Yeah, that must be cool to take your kid into something you're starring in. This is the
thing. I don't remember when he first shows up in Rebels, because I don't think they certainly hadn't said anything at that point about him being in it.
Yeah, I think I want to say season 2, but I'm not positive.
If it's season 2, then he probably knew that he was in it and they had probably already recorded his voice.
Right.
But if it was later than that, they may not have even had him in there yet. But
I don't think it was that late, because it's either late season 1 or mid season 2, but I'm not positive. Carlos, if you know, please fact check us.
I do know that they hadn't said anything about Ashley Eckstein being into it. But
wow. So you knew nothing about the cast at the time, right?
We knew that Freddie Prinze Jr. was in it. And I knew that guy Stephen Bloom was in it.
Right.
Who's
Zeb.
But for people who know voice actors, like Stephen Bloom has been in like 1,000,000,001 things. He's got a very recognizable voice. He's done like Wolverine and a bunch of things. He's the voice of the robot on all the promos that Adult Swim does for their anime block and stuff like that.
They get a few guys of that ilk, like Sam Witwer also does a ton of voice work. He was Maul. Right.
Which led him to be the voice of Maul in the Han Solo movie.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then also
Carlos says it was season 2. Thank you, Carlos.
Okay, yeah, so he probably knew at that point, but he may not have told the kid. And then Sarah Michelle Gellar was also in Rebels.
Yeah, she was the seventh sister in the Inquisitors.
Right. And so was Liam Neeson. He was in there too, somewhere, I think.
Was he? I don't remember.
Did
he force ghost himself or flashback?
He was like I think I remember him being a force ghost in one of those. Yeah, I might be wrong about it. I know that I know that they've never had anybody else voice that character in animation. They probably did in like the video games, but.
So going back to Ryder Azadi as governor of Lothal, apparently he has a great healthcare program because Sabine gets stabbed at the end of episode 1, lightsaber stabbed, and she's in the hospital healing up.
Yeah,
looks like they have single payer healthcare on Lothal.
So of course they do.
Good job there. I mean, some people are complaining that, Qui-Gon got stabbed, why didn't he, live? But didn't he get stabbed like pretty much through the heart, or was it the gut? I don't remember.
It wouldn't have been through the heart because it didn't kill him instantly. Because he was lying on the ground and he was like, you got to watch out for the kid. I mean, the other thing is we don't know what their biology is like. Like I said, they always refer to them as human.
Yeah, or humanoid. Yeah.
I mean, they've never actually said what they are because they're not human. We don't know where they're from. We know that Han Solo is from Corellia.
Oh, yeah. Well, Sabine is an ethnic Mandalorian as opposed to Din Djarin, who's an adopted Mandalorian.
Right.
So I don't know. Maybe her heart is in her ankle. We don't know.
Yeah, you don't know.
I don't know their physiology.
Yeah. I mean, Klingons have redundant internal organs. They have 2 hearts.
Cisco Punch says Liam Neeson was in Clone Wars season 6 with Yoda. And then again in Obi-Wan. Yes. So
there we go. Okay.
Thank you for that.
I remember I knew he was in Obi-Wan because I just watched that again.
Carlos says that Qui-Gon was stabbed in the gut, but they were in a deep reactor. And was that they were on Naboo at the time? Is that right?
They were in Naboo.
Maybe their healthcare on Naboo isn't as good as what Ryder Azadi set up on Lothal.
I mean, you never know. I mean, like he sort of pointed out, it could have been that, if you can get yourself into a back to tank within 30 minutes, you're fine. And if it's longer than that, then you.
I mean, I think the fans are overthinking it, which Star Wars fans tend to do, and I love them for it, and I'm also amused by it.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I was reading on Reddit this morning actually, and some guy left a comment. I'm like, see, he said, "Thank fucking God Star Wars fans don't actually write this stuff because some of your theories are stupid." I'm like, okay, that's fair. I wouldn't have said it like that, but
yeah.
Now I want to ask you, how do you think this show played to people that did not watch Rebels? I had a coworker that watched it and did not watch Rebels. He thought Chop was cute. And then I'm like, yeah, dude killed like 50,000 people. I was like, what? He couldn't believe it. So things like that, like when you and I saw Chopper on screen for the first time, like I was filled with so much joy that I thought my heart was going to explode.
Right. I mean, like you wouldn't know the significance of where Sabine is living, and you wouldn't know the significance of Clancy Brown's character, but a lot of that stuff doesn't really matter. I think that what does matter and may sort of confuse people, but then again, they can just go Google it, is who is this Ezra guy? And who is this Thrawn guy that now they've talked about a couple times in The Mandalorian? And because don't forget, they brought him up at the end of season 3 of The Mandalorian, like, when is he going to get here? Kind of,
Well, Ahsoka mentions them in season 2 when she asks, where is your master? Where is Thrawn?
Right.
Jumping back to the stab, Cisco Punch brings up this point that Reva on Obi-Wan was stabbed by the Grand Inquisitor and survived. That is a fair point. Yes, so no two stab wounds are the same. So I have no problem with Sabine surviving that. But I do love that Star Wars fans are having like really heated debates about it. You guys are awesome.
Let's not forget that Sabine is much younger than Qui-Gon is.
Right, but Reva would be younger than Sabine even when she got stabbed. Oh, well, she survived though. So Qui-Gon died because he's old.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying. Old people don't take the stab wounds so well.
Well, I mean, look.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, if my mom falls down and breaks her hip,
right,
she's kind of screwed. If a 12-year-old kid falls down and breaks his hip,
he's fine in a day. Keyword is Bacta. We really need this Bacta tank technology.
Yeah, that Bacta stuff is, I don't know what's in that, but
my knees are terrible, but I'm sure some Bacta would fix that right up.
And it clearly can't be expensive because they literally just soak you in the stuff. So
yeah, and Boba Fett just takes a bath every 3 days and he's fine.
Yeah, I
don't know. So yeah, my coworker that watched Ahsoka, he watched Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, Obi-Wan, and he liked them all to varying degrees. For him, he said Ahsoka was only okay. He didn't really get jazzed about seeing Hera and Chop like we did. So I do wonder how it plays for those fans to an extent, because I think if you haven't watched Rebels, you're some kind of infidel.
I mean,
you should watch Rebels. It's so good, by the way.
Well, I mean, this is the thing with Star Wars now is there's so much of it, and there's so many different entry points that people come into it in different places. I mean, there's probably somebody for whom their first Star Wars thing is going to be Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Which is going to be weird because they're not going to know who any of this stuff is and what's going on. But what I've heard happens a lot of times is that once people kind of come into it, they then go back and watch everything, get caught up, and figure everything out. Which kind of, this is a weird reference to make, but it reminds me of I had a friend, one of my best friends, Rob. He in high school he worked at Record World, and he was there when the Metallica "Injustice for All" album came out, and the one video hit MTV. And he said that literally the same thing would happen every single week. A kid would come in, they would buy Injustice for All, and then the next week they would come back and buy every other album by Metallica, which at that point there was only 4 of them. But I think that's what, I think that's the thing. Like, even if they come into this not really knowing who these people are,
they'll want to find out. Yeah.
I think, and I also would think that there's probably been a bunch of people watching Rebels like the last 2 weeks.
Right.
In anticipation. I know that Disney XD has been rerunning it, all this week, and so I would imagine like a lot of people have been going on Disney Plus and watching all those episodes and they're like, they never saw them before. And they're like, I want to know what's going on. And now they're like, oh, okay.
Right. So Cisco Punch says there's a group of Star Wars fans who didn't watch the animated series. This is true.
True.
And also, when I saw Star Wars: A New Hope, I thought Obi-Wan said colonial wars. I didn't know. That'd be cool. Obi-Wan who shows up in a flashback with a musket. It's like, you said this to me a long time ago. I think it was when the sequels came out that, they're like about the entry points. You told me, there's some people that to them, the Star Wars is the Clone Wars. There's people that the Star Wars is the Phantom Menace and the prequels, and people of our generation, it's the original trilogy. So I love that Star Wars can be different things to different people, and it's age is part of it, but it's really just what you saw first and what you got into.
Oh yeah, I mean
that becomes a definitive thing,
right? I mean, there's a ton of people who came into Star Wars through the Lego games.
Yeah.
Which seems weird to me because I'm like, the whole thing with the Lego games is they're parodies of the movies, but there's kids who like, the first thing they ever saw was the Lego games, and then they their dad is like, well, there's like a movie, right?
Right.
And then they go back and they watch everything.
Carlos says his son is in the Clone Wars group, which is great and very cool.
Yeah.
Now, even I can see how some of these characters and locations don't mean anything to newcomers, but at the very least, I don't think the story was hard to follow for the first two episodes. What did you think? I mean,
it wasn't hard to follow, but it did leave a lot open and unexplained.
Yeah.
Like you don't, like we've been saying, we don't know what happened between Sabine and Ahsoka. We don't know, what this plan is of the Dathomir witch and the may or may not be Jedis and whatnot. It was very much a lot of setup.
Did you notice that in the Clone Wars they're referred to as the Night Sisters of Dathomir? In Ahsoka they use the Witches of Dathomir. Is there any significance to that?
I don't think so. I think I've heard them use both, because they played a big part in the Star Wars Jedi game, the first one, Fallen Order.
Okay, yeah.
So I think they're referred to as both. There are men on that planet, like it's not
right,
like,
but it's a matriarchy, so the men are second class citizens in that.
Yeah.
One. So when Shin asked Morgan, "Are you a witch?" I thought she was going to go all Wizard of Oz and be like, "Are you a good witch or a bad witch?" So we have another comment from Cisco Ponch said, "I knew about the prequels before they were announced. George Lucas said in an article around the time of Return of the Jedi that there were 9 chapters. That's correct.
Very true. Yeah. I remember that. I remember even before the prequel, long before the prequels came, like in the 80s, somehow something came out where we knew that Darth Vader had fallen in a volcano."
Yeah. And Eddie Izzard says this is why kids are bad at math, because they learned the numbers go 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9.
Yeah.
So getting back to my point of that, these episodes weren't hard to follow. I saw this great graphic on Reddit that explained the first 2 episodes using other movies. So let's check this out. So first we have the Temple of Doom there. Kermit Sith.
Yeah.
So that is the 2, Balin and Shin. The Hellraiser with a cube. So Sabine solving the map.
Yeah. That reminded me of Hellraiser too, actually.
I was getting Rubik's Cube flashbacks there. Tom Cruise on the motorcycle. So that's Sabine outracing those. What are those E-wings? I forgot what those.
Yeah, E-wings.
Cat from Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
great. I love that. Stonehenge when they go back to
they're definitely Stonehenge reference.
What is that? Is that a Kurosawa movie?
Yeah, that's the Seven Samurai.
So,
which is like an underlying thing in Star Wars.
Yeah, absolutely. They do love George Lucas does love his blind Jedi stuff. So.
Yeah.
And then of course we have Mulan chopping off her hair.
Yeah.
So, yeah, not hard to follow. So I love that.
That just, it kind of strikes me as like how when you talk to some people, they think the first Mission Impossible movie was confusing. Like, in fact, for years, people would refer to it as the confusing Mission Impossible, and I never knew anybody that was confused by it. I was like, wait, you were confused by the fact that John Voight says one thing, but they show you the truth and it was something different.
Sure.
Okay.
Are you guys picking up the Norwegian lore in this series? Yes. And Cisco Punch, I hope you stick around because I will mention that specifically.
Yes.
Cisco Punch also says, I'm excited to hear more about Rakuten. Isn't that like a online e-commerce store?
Yeah.
No, that is Rakuten with a U. No, who might have created Morgan Elsbeth's map. Yes. And Rakuten isn't that the civilization that preceded the Old Republic, if I'm remembering correctly? So, yeah. They talked about that in Andor, actually. They had a crystal from that civilization That
They keep bringing up little things from the old Republic.
or pre, yeah, all the legends and lore stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, I love that we're getting the Star Wars legends that are from the books and the comics that were decanonized that are being brought back in. You know, the Thrawn books. Yeah, Thrawn was, those books are so good, and I'm glad that he is becoming an official part of the universe again.
Yeah.
Now, next point that I wanted to bring up. This show is called Ahsoka. It's just judging from the first two episodes, it doesn't really seem like her show. It seems more of, depending on your point of view, you can say it's an ensemble. Some people see it as Rebel Season 5. The vibe I got is that it's Sabine's story. And again, this is only the first two episodes, 25% of the series. So there's so many ways that they can go in. But the reason I say it's Sabine's story so far is that, I mean, obviously she had a lot of moments in it, but the music that they used Kevin Kiner's compositions from the Sabine heavy episodes of Rebels, specifically the Heroes of Mandalore episodes, which I think were the first two of season 4. The end credits use Sabine's theme there. I don't know if that will be the case for the rest of the series, but we'll see. Could be interesting. What's the vibe you're getting?
I think it's too early to tell, but I think at most it will be the Ahsoka Sabine happy hour. But it's not. I don't think it's going to turn into. I don't really think it's going to turn into Rebels season 5 or the Sabine show. You know, it's kind of like Frasier. Frasier was never just about Frasier. It was always Frasier, Niles,
and Daphne and the dad. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I mean, that's the thing. That's always the way it happens. You know.
Carlos agrees with you. He says he thinks it's something else entirely.
I mean, it's kind of Rebels season 5 to a certain extent, but it's also the Mandalorian season 2, 3 point.
Yeah.
So it kind of comes in there. You know, I mean, and we know that it's also going to tie into this movie that they're doing.
Right.
And there's that other show they're doing and whatever. And, you know, it's sort of the Filoni verse.
Which I love. I think Dave Filoni is the best Star Wars storyteller for the last 15 years. I don't remember when Clone Wars first started. It's been so long.
I can never remember. It didn't start in between episode 2 and 3. I think it started after 3.
No, I think it did start between 2 and 3.
No, I think that's when the first I think that's when the Gendy Tartakovsky one ran.
Oh no, you're right. You're right.
Because the Gendy Tartakovsky one goes right up to the beginning where the whatchamacallit, Chancellor Palpatine gets kidnapped.
Right. Now, I want to talk about Merrick for a bit.
Right.
He's dressed in Inquisitor garb. He uses the Inquisitor lightsaber.
Right.
He's hanging out with Baylan and Shin, but he seems to be part of their crew, but kind of also on the side. Now, I'm interested to learn more of his character, but so many Star Wars fans seem determined that he is someone else. They all have their fan theories. So let us play a game of who is Merrick.
Are we sure that's a man?
We are not. Now let us look at some of the theories. Some people think that's really Ezra.
Right.
And that he got pulled out from the nether regions or wherever. It's the unknown regions, but the nether regions is funnier. Some people think it's Barriss Offee, who has a history of Ahsoka and framed her for bombing the Jedi Temple. Some people think it's what's that dude's name from the Force Unleashed?
He was called Starkiller.
Yes, but his name is Marek, Marek.
Oh, right. Okay.
Those are just some of the theories that I've heard. I've read ones that are even dumber. Uh, and some people, I read some guy that thinks that it's a clone of Luke. Someone says it is a time displaced Kanan that was turned to the dark side, which sounds completely ridiculous to me.
No, that doesn't. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think it's Asajj Ventress. I don't think it's the black lady who was in Obi-Wan.
Reva
Yeah,
McIntyre, I think.
Reva McIntyre. I don't think it's her. It doesn't even seem like it would be Ezra, because Ezra is supposedly with Thrawn.
Thrawn, right.
So how do we know where Thrawn is unless somebody came back?
Right.
I don't know.
So Carlos thinks that Barriss is the best bet. Cisco Ponch says cloning is a thing. This is true, but
it's also entirely possible that it's not somebody.
That's what I'm hoping for. Like, why does it have to be?
It
What does it
doesn't
mean to
seem
be?
like, yeah, and it's funny too, because I mentioned earlier that I'd done a review of that Immortals of Avium.
Right.
And there's a character in that who wears a mask up until a point, and then the mask falls off, and you're like, oh, it's that person. And I remember when that happened, I was like, oh, that's obvious. Like, really? Like, who else was it going to be? Like, it's literally like, yeah. You never see that scene where they take the mask off and they're like, wait.
Didn't see that coming.
Do I know you? Are you a friend of my dad's?
Yeah.
Are you Huey Lewis? No. Okay.
Watch it be like Jar Jar or something. That would be. Yeah, he or she has not spoken, so it could be a Gungan.
Yeah, that's the thing. We don't know. It could be a man. It could be a woman. It could be C-3PO. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I hope that it's just Merrick and it is not someone in a guise. But I just find it curious. Why do people seem determined to shoehorn this character, into something?
Well, in fairness, by having a character who shows up like that and is mysterious and doesn't say anything, the history of storytelling in cinema and television suggests that it is somebody. And so I think that's why people are like, oh, it must be this person, it must be that person, blah, 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 blah. But therein lies the problem with modern storytelling.
Yeah.
A lot of times things, for like the longest time, for example, you knew that like a main character in a movie was not going to die.
Yeah.
No matter what happened. And you would watch a TV show and they would be like, is everybody going to survive the bomb blast? And you'd be like, well, yes, their contracts are like, it's the middle of the season. They're not going to kill Lenny Briscoe.
It's his show. Yeah. It's like,
they're not going to kill Frasier in the middle of Frasier. And some of that did change with like The Walking Dead and Game of Thrones and whatnot. But I don't know. We'll see.
Carlos says that he thinks it's Barriss because there's unfinished business with Ahsoka, and this is Ahsoka's show. I mean, those are all true things, but to me, it doesn't have to be anyone, and I hope it's not. But if it is, I hope it's written well.
Yeah.
Now, next question. What is with Dave Filoni and wolves?
No. He seems to like them a lot.
He does. I
mean, wolves are pretty cool, unless, of course, they're chewing on your leg. But
now, let me pull up this graphic here. Sorry. So his character is named Trapper Wolf.
Right.
Loth wolves play a big part in this. As Punch mentioned, there's Norse mythology here. So Skull and Hati, there are wolves from the Norse mythology.
Right.
Merrick is actually named after Sir Merrick, who is a werewolf from the Arthurian legends. So he was a knight of a round table werewolf that I totally did not know about until reading about this episode. So Cisco does think Skull and Hati is significant. I don't know. I have my own theory about this. I think as a child, Dave Filoni was playing in the woods when some bears attacked him, and he was surely going to die, but he was saved by a friendly pack of wolves. And ever since then, Dave Filoni has loved wolves.
See, I think that Dave Filoni was out in the woods and he got pissed on by a fox. So now he likes foxes, and wolves are the opposite of foxes. So
That is also very plausible.
yeah.
But who knows? Another great comment from Cisco here. So in the Norse mythologies, he says that Skull chases the sun and Hati chases the moon. Yes, this is true. So that is why the sun and the moon move, because wolves are chasing them. That is one way to explain science. I thought you were going to do a pet cemetery route. Also possible. Now, last, or second to last, actually, are there any characters that you're hoping to see in the rest of Ahsoka that we have not seen yet?
I mean, Zeb's the obvious one.
Right. Although we have seen him in
Yeah,
in
and I think they wouldn't have done that if they weren't going to bring him back for this at some point.
Right.
I know that he said he didn't want to come back, but I would actually like it if Freddie Prinze Jr. came back and did the live action of Kanan in like a flashback. I don't want to see him as a Force ghost, but like it would be cool to see him like with, you know, like some flashback, because we know there's gonna be like a flashback of like Anakin, so it makes sense, you know, they could do that with Kanan as well.
Right. So for people that don't know, Freddie Prinze has said that he's reluctant to do things as Kanan because he feels that it takes away from his death. Spoiler. Sorry. And I get the point, but you could also
I get his point, but I feel like that would only really be true if it was like Kanan came back somehow.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I think that if it was a flashback to something with Ahsoka or Hera, you know, I think you could get away with it. We also haven't seen Hera and Kanan's kids yet.
Jason, right? Carlos brought him up.
Yeah.
Carlos also brought up Rex, which
I think I read that like if they were going to one of the Rex is going to be in there somewhere at some point.
That'd be awesome. They show a clone helmet in the beginning. You know, when they go cycle through all the helmets there.
Yes, and I noticed that actually the David Tennant robot, they put him in there too, which I thought was interesting. I would actually weirdly like it if they went back to that planet where Tom Baker from Doctor Who played the giant Forcey alien.
Oh, Adelon.
Yeah.
Or, Bendu, right.
Yeah, or whatever his name was. Like, I always liked that character. It was really cool.
Yeah, he was very angry, though.
Yeah, well, it's Tom Baker.
Yeah, he was a Force neutral kind of deal.
Like, you get him and, like, David Tennant in a scene together, like...
That would be pretty nerdy. Here are two characters from Rebels, or Clone Wars even, that I'd like to see. On the left is Hondo Ohnaka.
Right.
Who is a pirate, not a smuggler. Thank you.
Right.
He was originally introduced in the Clone Wars as more or less a traditional bad guy. But in Rebels, he was kind of like a comic relief, scoundrelish kind of thing who he forms a strong bond with Ezra, rips off the Rebels crew every now and then, tries to cheat them, but he seems like a fun, good guy at heart. And I think it was the second to last episode of Rebels where they're recruiting everyone to help take back Lothal, and Hondo says, "For that boy, I would do anything." And it's just a really sweet moment.
Yeah.
And on the right is AP5, who is a droid that Chopper befriends. I don't know. He's like if droids could have depression, that would be AP5. He's just a morose snarky character that plays off Chopper well. Like,
Yeah.
I would love to see AP5 and Chopper fight C-3PO and R2-D2. They would kick their ass.
I could see Hondo coming up somehow.
That would be cool.
You know, especially after they brought back the guy who I always call Lee Van Cleef. The
Master Ninja?
No, he. Oh God, he was an assassin. He's got like a big hat. He looks like your traditional like gray alien with the big eyes and.
Oh, from the Clone Wars.
Yeah,
yeah. He was in Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, the one they killed in Book of Boba Fett, and everyone's like,
Cad Bane.
Cad Bane. Yeah, I mean, if they brought back Cad Bane, they can bring back Hondo.
You call him Lee Van Cleef.
He looks, because he reminds me of Lee Van Cleef from some old movies. So,
I mean, he's played cowboys in movies. He's never played an alien cowboy that I know of.
I would like to see Asajj Ventress turn up.
Wait, isn't he dead? Did he die in Book of
Cad Bane? Or Lee Van Cleef?
Lee Van Cleef is way dead.
Yeah.
But I thought Cad Bane died in Book of Boba.
He did. Cad Bane died in he got shot by the dude from Justified.
Right.
Yeah.
So but he's not coming back.
I'd like to see Asajj Ventress turn up, because if I'm remembering correctly, when Ahsoka left Rebels, she kind of went off with Asajj. You know, maybe that's who's in that suit.
Cisco Punch says Corey Burton is his voice.
Thank you. Yeah.
I don't know if it was the actual hat, but
well, they definitely were going for
style,
that kind of vibe. So, you know,
whenever I see, I think I associate him with Master Ninja, and I want to hear Timothy Van Patten doing stupid voiceovers over his whole adventures. Ventress is dead. Dooku kills her, if I recall. I don't remember. That is a good fact check. Funnily, there is a guitar reverb pedal called the Ventress that I consider buying, partially because it's a really good pedal, but partially because it's named Ventress. And just so when I could look down, I could be like Anakin and be like, Ventress. And like, Cisco Punch says she's not dead. I didn't think she was.
I didn't think she was.
Because they brought her back. Was she in that? Did they bring her back in that last season? The Night Sisters resurrect her. I
mean, it's Star Wars. Is anybody really dead?
Cloning. You could have a clone. I really hope not, but we shall see. Now, judging from these first two episodes, how do you think Ahsoka will stack up compared to the rest of the live-action TV shows on Disney Plus? And this is completely subjective. I'm not talking about any terms of overall quality.
Right. I think that if it maintains the strength of the first two episodes, that it will decidedly rank alongside The Mandalorian, which is, for me, better than Boba Fett and better than Andor.
Oh, really? Wow. Yeah. I mean, I think Mando season 2 is probably my favorite. Objectively, I would say Andor is better than that, just in terms of quality, and not having, because there's some stuff with Grogu that I think gets a little goofy.
I think that Andor is a better made show.
Yeah, I would. Yeah,
I just don't enjoy it as much.
No, that's completely with you on there. Yeah. Ahsoka will be my favorite show. I mean, I'm just too much of a Rebels fan that this cannot not be my favorite. You know.
Well, it can.
I mean, yeah. I mean, they're not gonna. I trust Filoni to not do anything stupid.
You mean you don't think he's going to do a musical episode?
I wouldn't mind that. I love my musicals. I know you do not, and you are very, very mad about a certain Star Trek musical episode recently. You were not pleased.
Yeah, I was not happy about that. Although I will say this, they did a good job of explaining in a reasonably plausible way why people were singing, and also kind of made fun of the fact that like certain things happen in music, like why musicals are the way they are, and
Yeah.
I did enjoy that aspect. So
I mean, I liked the musical episodes of the CW, the superhero stuff. They did a Supergirl Flash crossover that was musical. They were both in Glee, so it makes sense.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
And what's his face? Oh, the old guy who's on Broadway all the time. I mean, that made sense for him because he's a Broadway actor. So, right. What other weird episodes? I mean, Schmigadoon makes fun of musicals.
Yeah.
I think that's a very clever show. I like it. Cisco Punch says, if it wasn't for Filoni, I wouldn't know that. Yes, that is very true. Although now I wish like our colonial war was about, like England sent clones and we had to fight them off. I don't know. Strange New Worlds did a musical. Yes, they did. And Paul was not pleased.
Yeah, well.
I mean, if it's as good as this, and let's assume it gets better because the middle tends to be the best in these things, if not the finale. Will this be the best show for you out of all the Disney Plus stuff?
You mean if it gets better?
Yes.
If it gets better, then yes. But I mean, you have to top that opening, which, that was pretty spot on. And I think, like you said, you'd have to, pay off some of these things and whatnot. So,
Battlestar Galactica.
Oh God,
those were some cool toys. And as a kid, like Cylons scared the shit out of me. It was Cylons and the Sleestack from Land of the Lost.
God, those things scared the crap out of me.
They're terrifying, partially because the Sleestack eyes didn't move because they were puppets, so that made them creepier. The Cylons with just the red light.
Yeah. Oh, and there was that there was that whole thing with the guy who was like dressed in white, who might have been a lizard person. They never really got to explain that, but there was something weird there.
And red shooting torpedoes. I think that was one of the toys that got those kind of missiles banned from toys.
It did. It was the fighter. It would shoot like little red things, and kids
like shoot each other's eyes and shoot. Yeah.
like lawn darts. Like lawn darts are like illegal in 37 countries or something.
I liked the Will Ferrell Land of the Lost. I thought it was funny. And I like Danny McBride a lot. I will watch almost anything he's in because it might not be good, but he will always have moments that just make me laugh.
Mm.
Also a great musical scene in that where they take a song from a chorus line and they integrate it into...
Oh, God, you're right. I just always think of the mosquito.
Oh, that's gross. That is a pretty gross scene.
Yeah.
So, do you have a good feeling about this? Or
I do. I like you said, Filoni has done good work. I think he has. I think, especially at this point, knowing that this is all leading up to a movie, I think he's got it really well plotted out how this is going to fit in, and how that other show is going to fit in, and whatever comes after this, if anything, I don't know. I mean, obviously, at this point, everything is kind of on standstill because of the strikes.
Yeah.
Which is sort of screwing everything up. But, it wouldn't surprise me if they end up delaying the movie because of that. But, I imagine that unlike J.J. Abrams, Filoni seems to come up with a plot and figure, like he's got a loose plan at the very least.
He knows how to do endings. So,
well, with JJ, as much as I love the movies, Star Wars movies he made, like it still annoys me that they didn't sort of go, okay, here's the first movie, this is what the second movie has to do, and here's what the third movie has to do, and make it tell. I mean, I know people of our generation always bag on the prequels, but like the prequels told a coherent through line story.
They did.
Granted, they knew where it was going, but like still, like there is like a story there that's, like as with this show, starts off and Is Rogue Squadron still out there? I don't know.
I don't know either. Carlos asks, random, but will we ever get a Bad Batch in real life cameo? Sure, why not?
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't expect it, but
I don't expect a Bad Batch live show.
Yeah. Now let me get you out of here on this. By the end of Ahsoka,
Okay.
will we see the Phoenix Squadron all reunited, aside from Kanan, who is dead?
I don't know that they will be reunited. I think that Ahsoka and Sabine's relationship will be better. I think Zeb will have shown up, but he's probably off doing whatever it is that he's doing, which is probably being a DJ. That's what people do now.
I don't mean will they team up together? Will we see these guys in the same room?
Yeah, I think they will get back. I think there will be something, but like I don't think it's going to be like you said. Like it's not going to be all of them back on the Ghost,
right?
Going off somewhere. Like I think Ahsoka is still going to go off on her own. You know, I think Sabine, like I said, like I think Sabine and Ahsoka will have a better relationship. I think maybe Sabine. I think Sabine will have the biggest amount of growth that we see over the course of the show, and I think that her relationship with Hera will get better, and I at some point I expect them all to have an intervention about Chopper's drinking, because that's the problem there. He doesn't know what an asshole he becomes when he starts drinking daiquiris.
What episode do you think we'll see Ezra in, not in hologram form?
Second to last, maybe? I don't know.
Oh, that long?
Yeah. I think, yeah.
I mean, it makes sense.
I don't know, but it could. I mean, this is the thing. I mean, it would be a very different show if everything is leading up to the end being Thrawn comes back. That's a very different show than Thrawn comes back in episode 3 or 4 and then starts to raise hell.
Carlos agrees with you. He also thinks it'll be episode 7 of 8, by the way, if you have not been keeping track.
Yeah. I do think that if he doesn't come back until episode 7, then that indicates strongly that there's a second season in the works.
I think there will be. It seems like he has a lot to do before his movie. Although, with the strikes, I mean, who knows when this is possible. That really messed things up. God damn it, studios. Get their shit together.
Yeah, well.
But I am very happy with Ahsoka. I can't wait to see more. I mean, I love Rebels so much, and this to me is an extension of Rebels. I can't wait to see where it goes. Guys, if you liked this show, enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe. If you have a grandparent or parent that is not altogether there, make them watch this on loop to get our views up. Go to paulsemel.com for some excellent interviews, reviews, and more, including the
blurry.
What's the Avenium thing?
Oh, Immortals of Avenium, yeah.
His review of the Immortals of Avenium. If you have a case of Avenium, go see a doctor and get a cream that'll clear it right up. I had a bad case of Avenium once. Got some antibiotic ointment, gone in 3 days. And as always, thanks for watching RPAD TV. We're changing the schedule up a little bit. Next week, I will see you guys on Tuesday, where I will be reviewing Russell Quest with my excellent friend and Paul's friend, Ray Carcillo. See you next time. Say goodbye, Paul.
Goodbye, Paul.